At 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, I was flat on my back under my HVAC service van in our suburban Atlanta driveway, wrestling with a busted transmission line that had decided to hemorrhage fluid all over Maple Creek Lane. The irony wasn't lost on me. Fixing things that break down had become my specialty, professionally and apparently personally. That's when I heard Kendra's voice drifting through our kitchen window, crystal clear in the humid Georgia night air. "You have to earn the right to sleep with me," she declared to whoever was on the other end of her phone call. Her laugh followed, not the warm one I'd fallen in love with 18 years ago, but something sharper, more calculating. "It's like a loyalty point system, Lori. He's been running a deficit for months." I froze under that van, wrench in hand, transmission fluid dripping onto my forehead like some twisted baptism. Mason Hart, 42 years old, owner of Hart Climate Solutions, reduced to a frequent flyer program with his own wife. "The living room couch is perfect for him," Kendra continued, her voice gaining momentum. "Maybe a few nights there will remind him what he needs to do to earn his way back upstairs." Lori Finch's cackle came through the speakerphone. "Girl, you are stone cold. I love it. He's probably out there right now, thinking he's still the man of the house." "Please. Mason's been coasting for years. The business is barely breaking even. He smells like ductwork half the time, and don't get me started on his idea of romance. At least the couch will give him time to think about stepping up his game." I slid out from under the van, wiping transmission fluid from my eyes. Through the kitchen window, I could see Kendra pacing in her silk pajamas, the expensive ones I'd bought her for our anniversary. She looked radiant under the pendant lights, animated in a way I hadn't seen her in months. "The thing is," Kendra was saying, "I've been thinking about what you said at lunch, about not settling, about knowing my worth." "Exactly. You manage bookings for the most exclusive boutique hotel in Buckhead. You coordinate events for celebrities and politicians. And what does Mason do? He fixes air conditioners." "He owns the company," Kendra said, but her tone suggested this was a technicality rather than an achievement. "A company with what? 6 employees? Honey, you're operating on different levels now. The charity mixer next week is going to be full of successful people, real players. You should come." "I don't know. Mason will expect what he's always expected. For you to revolve around his schedule, his comfort, his limited vision of what your life should look like. When's the last time he surprised you? When's the last time he made you feel like the prize instead of the consolation?" I stood there in my driveway, covered in automotive fluids, listening to my wife discuss me like a disappointing quarterly report. The neighborhood was quiet, except for the distant hum of central air units working overtime against the Georgia heat, units I'd probably installed or serviced. "You're right," Kendra said finally. "I've been making it too easy for him. Time to change the dynamic." "That's my girl. Make him work for it. Make him prove he deserves you." The call ended, and I watched Kendra move through our kitchen, checking her reflection in the window. She looked satisfied, like someone who'd just made an important business decision. I finished cleaning up under the van, my mind racing. 18 years of marriage, and apparently I'd been demoted to the status of a loyalty card that hadn't been used enough to maintain its benefits. Inside, I found a pillow and blanket stacked neatly on the living room couch. A post-it note was attached. "Think about what you need to do differently. K." I stared at that note for a long time. Kendra had beautiful handwriting, precise, confident strokes that matched her personality, or at least the personality she'd developed over the past 2 years as her career had taken off. The Hart Climate Solutions business cards scattered on my coffee table suddenly looked shabby compared to her elegant hotel management credentials. My company logo, a simple house with cool air flowing through it, seemed almost childish next to the sophisticated branding of the Meridian Grand Hotel where she worked. But here's what Kendra didn't know about loyalty point systems. I'd spent 20 years building HVAC systems, which meant I understood how things really worked when the pressure changed, when the balance shifted, when the whole system needed recalibrating. I grabbed my laptop and started making some adjustments of my own. By morning, I'd transferred our joint checking account into the business account, temporarily frozen our shared credit cards for suspicious activity review, and booked myself a room at a competing hotel across town. I'd also scheduled an emergency consultation with Tom Bradley, the lawyer who'd handled our business incorporation. At 6:30 a.m., I loaded my overnight bag into the van and left Kendra a note of my own. Gone to earn some points elsewhere. M. Then I drove to the Westin downtown and checked into a suite with a view of the city skyline. 3 days of radio silence from Kendra confirmed what I'd suspected. She was more annoyed than worried. Her text messages had evolved from, "Where are you?" to "This is ridiculous, Mason," to "Fine, have your tantrum." But Tom Bradley's legal advice had been crystal clear. Document everything, secure the business assets, and prepare for the possibility that my marriage was already over in everything but paperwork. The joint account transfer was smart, Tom had said over coffee. The business predates the marriage, and you've kept meticulous records. If she's planning to make intimacy transactional, she might be planning to make the divorce transactional too. I spent those 3 days reviewing 18 years of financial records, business documents, and asset acquisitions. The picture that emerged was clear. Hart Climate Solutions had grown from a one-man operation to a 6-figure annual revenue company, entirely through my work. Our house, our cars, our lifestyle, all funded by the business Lori Finch had so casually dismissed. Meanwhile, Kendra's social media told a different story. Instagram posts about finding your worth and not settling for less than you deserve. Photos of her at upscale restaurants with Lori, captions about girls' nights and new adventures. The charity mixer was on Friday night at the Meridian Grand, Kendra's hotel. I decided to attend. I put on my best suit, the charcoal gray one Kendra had picked out for me 2 years ago, and drove to Buckhead. The Meridian Grand's lobby was everything you'd expect from a boutique hotel catering to Atlanta's elite. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the kind of understated luxury that whispered rather than shouted. The mixer was in the hotel's rooftop ballroom, a space I'd never seen despite Kendra working there for 2 years. She'd always said the events were work functions that wouldn't interest me. I paid the $50 entrance fee and walked into a room full of Atlanta's young professionals, all holding wine glasses and making the kind of networking conversation that sounded like verbal chess matches. And there was Kendra. She looked stunning in a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled in an elegant updo, moving through the crowd with the confidence of someone who belonged. She was with Lori, both of them laughing at something a tall man in an expensive suit had said. I recognized him from the real estate billboards around town, Travis Fulton, one of those house-flipping entrepreneurs who'd made a fortune during Atlanta's housing boom. He had the kind of artificially perfect smile that suggested extensive dental work and the easy charm of someone who'd never had to fix his own transmission. I ordered a bourbon from the bar and positioned myself where I could observe without being seen. The bartender, a guy named Carlos, who I'd helped out with an emergency AC repair at his apartment complex, nodded in recognition. "Didn't expect to see you here, Mason. This crowd's usually all about who's got the biggest portfolio." "My wife works for the hotel. Thought I'd see what these things are about." Carlos glanced across the room. "That's your wife? The one with the blonde in the blue dress?" "Yeah, why?" "Nothing, man. Just, she's here a lot. Usually with that real estate guy. They seem close." I followed his gaze and watched Travis place his hand on the small of Kendra's back, guiding her toward the balcony. Lori followed, but hung back, giving them space. "How close?" I asked. Carlos looked uncomfortable. "Look, it's not my business, but they've had dinner in our restaurant maybe 6 times in the past month. Always just the 2 of them. Always at the corner table, and last week—" "What?" Last week I saw them in the elevator together going up to the guest floors. Look, maybe it's innocent. Maybe it's business. I finished my bourbon in one swallow. Thanks for the heads up. I moved closer to the balcony, using a group of lawyers as cover. Through the glass doors I could see Kendra and Travis in animated conversation. He was leaning close, saying something that made her laugh, that genuine warm laugh I hadn't heard in months. Then he kissed her. Not a friendly peck, not a professional gesture. A real kiss, the kind that suggested this wasn't their first. Kendra didn't pull away. She kissed him back. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, watching my wife of 18 years embrace another man against the backdrop of Atlanta's skyline. The city lights twinkled below them like some romantic movie scene, and I realized I was witnessing the end of my marriage in real time. When they broke apart, Kendra looked radiant, alive. Happy in a way that made it clear this wasn't just physical. She was emotionally invested in whatever this was. I walked back to the bar. "You okay, man?" Carlos asked. "I need another bourbon, and I need you to tell me everything you've seen." Carlos told me everything over the course of 20 minutes and 3 more bourbons. Kendra and Travis had been regular fixtures at the Meridian Grand for over a month. They'd had dinner, drinks, and what Carlos diplomatically called extended meetings in the hotel's executive suites. "She always pays," Carlos added, "uses her employee discount and some kind of comp system, charges it to marketing events or client entertainment." "How often?" "Twice a week minimum, sometimes more. And Mason, they don't act like business associates." I thanked Carlos, left him a generous tip, and drove back to my hotel room to process what I'd learned. The bourbon helped with the immediate shock, but the implications were sobering in every sense. Kendra wasn't just having an affair. She was funding it with hotel perks, conducting it at her workplace, and doing it with the kind of brazen confidence that suggested she'd already mentally ended our marriage. The next morning, I called a private investigator Tom Bradley had recommended, a former Atlanta PD detective named Sarah Mitchell, who specialized in matrimonial cases. "I don't need proof of the affair," I told her over coffee at a diner in Virginia Highland. "I need to understand the scope, how long it's been going on, whether there are financial implications, and what she's planning." Sarah was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, with the kind of direct gaze that suggested she'd seen every variation of human betrayal. "Most people want photos, recordings, evidence for court. You're thinking bigger picture." "I'm thinking survival. My wife has essentially declared war on our marriage, but she's doing it while still enjoying the benefits of being married to me. I need to know what I'm dealing with." "Smart approach. Give me 2 weeks." While Sarah worked, I focused on securing Hart Climate Solutions. I moved the business to a new location, a better facility in an industrial park with lower overhead and room for expansion. I updated all banking relationships, insurance policies, and vendor contracts to reflect my sole ownership. I also started paying attention to our daughter Tina's social media presence. At 17, she'd been documenting our family dysfunction with the ruthless efficiency of her generation. Her TikTok account told the story from her perspective. POV: your dad thinks he's the victim, but your mom is literally glowing up. When your parents are getting divorced, but your mom is finally living her best life. Dad's having a midlife crisis and mom is having a renaissance. The comments were brutal. Hundreds of teenagers weighing in on my marriage, mostly taking Kendra's side. I was characterized as the boring, controlling husband who couldn't handle his wife's success. But Tina's posts also revealed information Kendra probably didn't know she was sharing. Photos of expensive gifts that appeared in our house, jewelry, designer handbags, electronics that were definitely outside our normal budget. References to Mom's new friend Travis, who was so much cooler than Dad. I screenshot everything. Sarah called me on a Wednesday morning with her preliminary report. "Your wife is thorough," she said. "This isn't a casual affair. She's been systematically preparing for a divorce while maintaining the relationship with Travis Fulton. She's moved money into accounts you don't have access to. She's been consulting with a divorce attorney, and she's been documenting what she calls your emotional unavailability and financial irresponsibility. Financial irresponsibility? According to her notes, you've been hoarding business assets and refusing to invest in the marriage. She's building a case that you've been financially controlling and that she deserves a significant portion of the business as compensation for supporting your career. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. She's rewriting history. That's what people do. But here's the interesting part. Travis Fulton isn't just her boyfriend. He's been advising her on the financial strategy. He's the one who suggested she document your behavior and start establishing her own credit and savings. So this is coordinated. Completely. And there's more. Lori Finch isn't just your wife's friend and confidant. She's Travis's business partner. They've been flipping houses together for 2 years. The pieces clicked into place. So Lori introduced them. More than that. Based on what I've been able to piece together, Lori has been actively encouraging your wife to leave you. She's been feeding Kendra a steady diet of "you deserve better," and Mason is holding you back, while simultaneously setting her up with Travis. Why? I'm still working on that. But I think there's something personal here. Some history between you and Lori that goes beyond just being your wife's friend. I thought back through the years of our marriage, trying to remember significant interactions with Lori. She'd always been around. Girls' trips, dinner parties, shopping excursions. But there had been something else. Something I'd forgotten until now. 3 years ago, I said. Lori needed work. She'd been laid off from some marketing job. Kendra asked if I could hire her to help with Hart Climate Solutions bookkeeping and customer service. And? I hired her for 3 months. She was terrible. Showed up late, made mistakes with invoices, was rude to customers. I had to let her go. Kendra was furious with me about it. There's your motive. Hell hath no fury like a woman whose employment you've terminated. So this whole thing is revenge? Revenge, opportunity, and genuine dislike all rolled into one. Lori gets to destroy your marriage, help her business partner Travis acquire a new girlfriend with hotel industry connections, and watch you lose everything you've built. I sat in my hotel room that night, staring out at the Atlanta skyline, trying to process the scope of the conspiracy against me. It wasn't just that my wife was having an affair. She was being actively manipulated by people who wanted to see me fail. But here's what Lori, Travis, and even Kendra didn't understand about me. I'd built a successful business from nothing by solving problems other people couldn't solve. And this was just another system that needed recalibrating. Sarah's full report arrived on a Friday morning, delivered to my hotel room in a manila envelope that contained 18 years of marriage, reduced to photographs, financial records, and timeline documentation. The photos were the hardest part. Kendra and Travis at romantic dinners, walking hand in hand through Piedmont Park, kissing in the parking garage of his upscale condo building. In every image, she looked happier than I'd seen her in years. But the financial records were more damaging. Kendra had been systematically moving money from our joint accounts into a personal savings account for 6 months. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger alerts, but it added up to nearly $15,000. She'd also been using her hotel employee benefits to provide Travis with free rooms, restaurant meals, and event access, a clear violation of her employment agreement that could result in termination and restitution demands. The timeline showed the affair had been going on for 4 months, but the planning had started much earlier. Lori had introduced Kendra to Travis at a real estate networking event 8 months ago, then spent the following months encouraging Kendra to explore her options and not settle for less than she deserved. I called Tom Bradley and scheduled an emergency meeting. "This is actually good news for you," Tom said, reviewing the evidence. "She's violated the employment agreement, which gives us leverage. She's moved marital assets without disclosure, which strengthens your position. and she's been planning the divorce while still benefiting from the marriage, which a judge won't appreciate. What's my best move? Confront her, but do it smart. Get her to admit what she's been doing, preferably in writing. Then, file first, fast, and with overwhelming documentation. I decided to attend Tina's school play that evening, a production of Much Ado About Nothing that seemed appropriately ironic given the circumstances. Kendra would be there, and it would be our first face-to-face conversation since I'd left. The Northside High School auditorium was packed with parents, and I spotted Kendra immediately. She was sitting in the third row with Lori and, to my surprise, Travis. He was dressed casually but expensively, looking like he belonged at a private school function rather than a public high school play. I sat 2 rows behind them and watched their interactions during the pre-show mingling. Travis had his arm around Kendra's waist, and she was introducing him to other parents as her friend. Lori was working the crowd, making conversation, and occasionally glancing around the auditorium like she was looking for someone. She found me during intermission. "Well, well, Mason Hart graces us with his presence," Lori said, approaching my seat with a wine glass from the lobby reception. "Kendra wasn't sure you'd show up. You've been so absent lately." "I've been busy. Business is booming." "Is it?" "Because from what I hear, you've been hiding out in a hotel room feeling sorry for yourself. And from what I hear, you've been playing matchmaker with my wife." Lori's smile faltered slightly. "I don't know what you mean." "Sure you do. Travis Fulton, real estate, your business partner, the man currently sitting with my wife and daughter at my daughter's school play. Travis is a friend, a successful friend who treats Kendra with the respect she deserves." "The respect she deserves. That's interesting phrasing. Tell me, Lori, how long have you been planning this?" "Planning what?" "The destruction of my marriage, the systematic alienation of my wife, the careful coordination of her affair with your business partner." Lori took a sip of wine, studying me over the rim of her glass. "You know what your problem is, Mason? You think everyone else is responsible for your failures. Kendra isn't happy because you're boring. She's successful despite you, not because of you. And if she's found someone who appreciates her worth, maybe you should ask yourself why that person isn't you. Maybe I should ask myself why my wife's best friend has been sabotaging my marriage for months. I've been supporting my friend. There's a difference. By encouraging her to have an affair? By encouraging her to stop settling for a man who takes her for granted." The lights dimmed, signaling the end of intermission. Lori returned to her seat, but the damage was done. She'd essentially admitted to orchestrating the whole thing. After the play, I approached Kendra in the parking lot. Travis and Lori were loading flowers into Travis's BMW, giving us a moment of privacy. "We need to talk," I said. "Now you want to talk? After disappearing for a week?" "I've been giving you space to figure out what you want. It looks like you've figured it out." Kendra glanced toward Travis, then back at me. "Mason, How long?" "What?" "How long have you been sleeping with him?" She could have denied it. She could have acted outraged or confused. Instead, she lifted her chin and looked me directly in the eyes. 4 months, and I'm not sorry." The honesty was almost refreshing. "Are you planning to divorce me?" "I'm planning to be happy. If that requires divorce, then yes." "And the money you've been moving into your personal account? The hotel perks you've been giving him? The systematic preparation for ending our marriage while still enjoying the benefits of being married to me?" Kendra's composure cracked slightly. "How do you know about all of it?" "Because unlike you, I don't make major life decisions without doing my homework." Travis approached us, clearly sensing tension. "Everything okay here?" "Everything's fine," I said. "I was just telling my wife how impressed I am with her strategic planning. The affair, the financial maneuvering, the employment violations, it's all very thorough." Travis stepped closer. "I think you need to watch your tone. I think you need to mind your own business. But then again, my wife apparently is your business now. Mason, stop, Kendra said. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, the only embarrassing thing here is that my wife needed her friend to pimp her out to her business partner. That's when Travis made his mistake. He put his hand on my chest and pushed. I've spent 20 years doing physical labor, crawling through attics, lifting HVAC units, working with my hands in conditions that would break most office workers. Travis spent his days looking at property listings and making phone calls. The push barely moved me, but it gave me everything I needed. Don't touch me again, I said quietly. Ever. Or what? Or I'll file assault charges, send the video from the school's parking lot security cameras to your real estate licensing board, and make sure every one of your investors knows you're the kind of man who gets physical with the husbands of the women you're sleeping with. Travis looked around and noticed what I'd already seen. 3 security cameras covering the parking lot, and about 20 parents still milling around who'd witnessed the entire exchange. This isn't over, he said. You're right. It's just getting started. I filed for divorce the following Monday morning, with Tom Bradley presenting a comprehensive case that included Sarah Mitchell's investigation, financial records documenting Kendra's asset transfers, and evidence of her employment agreement violations. But I didn't stop there. I sent copies of the hotel policy violations to the Meridian Grand's general manager, along with detailed records of how Kendra had been using company resources to conduct her personal relationship. I also sent copies to the hotel's corporate headquarters and their ethics compliance department. The response was swift. Kendra was fired within 48 hours. I also sent a carefully worded letter to Travis's real estate brokerage detailing his involvement in encouraging an employee to violate her employment agreement and misuse company resources. While not technically illegal, it raised questions about his professional judgment that his broker would need to address. But the most effective action was the simplest one. I posted a single status update on Facebook. After 18 years of marriage, I've learned that some people view relationships as loyalty points, programs where intimacy is earned through good behavior. I've also learned that some friends aren't friends at all, but rather matchmakers working on commission. To everyone who's reached out with support during this difficult time, thank you. To everyone who's been working behind the scenes to destroy my marriage, your efforts have been successful. Congratulations. I didn't name names. I didn't provide details. I just told the truth in a way that let people draw their own conclusions. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Friends, family, customers, and even casual acquaintances reached out with messages of support. Many shared their own stories of betrayal and divorce. Several mentioned they'd suspected something was wrong but hadn't known how to approach me. But more importantly, people started connecting the dots. Lori's social media posts about supporting strong women and not settling suddenly looked different in context. Travis's professional networking posts about helping people reach their potential took on new meaning. Kendra's response was predictable, a Facebook post about toxic masculinity and controlling behavior that garnered sympathy from people who didn't know the full story. But the damage was done. Her professional reputation was compromised, her personal relationships were under scrutiny, and her financial situation had become precarious. Tina's reaction was more complex. Her TikTok posts shifted from mocking me to expressing confusion about the situation. When you realize your parents' divorce is more complicated than you thought, and POV, everyone you trusted was lying to you. She called me on a Thursday evening, crying, "Dad, I didn't know about the money, about Mom's job, about any of it. I thought you were just being jealous and controlling." It's okay, sweetheart. You're 17. You're not supposed to understand adult relationship dynamics. But I posted all that stuff online. I made you look bad. I'm sorry. You were supporting your mother. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm not angry with you. Are you angry with Mom? I considered the question carefully. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. But mostly, I'm relieved that the truth is finally out in the open. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Kendra's lawyer tried to argue for spousal support and a portion of the business, but the evidence of her affair, financial misconduct, and employment violations undermined her credibility. Travis tried to maintain his relationship with Kendra, but the scrutiny from his professional associations and the social media attention made him increasingly uncomfortable. He started canceling dates, avoiding public appearances with her, and eventually stopped returning her calls. Lori's real estate partnership with Travis dissolved when several of their investors pulled out, citing concerns about their personal judgment and professional conduct. She moved to Nashville 6 months later, claiming she needed a fresh start. The final divorce decree was signed on a Tuesday morning in October, exactly 8 months after I'd heard Kendra's loyalty point speech through the kitchen window. I kept the house, the business, and most of our joint assets. Kendra received her personal belongings, her car, and a modest settlement that reflected the brevity of the marriage dissolution period rather than the full 18 years we'd been together. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was psychological. I'd learned that I was stronger, smarter, and more resourceful than I'd given myself credit for. I'd also learned that the people who truly mattered would support me through the worst circumstances, while the people who didn't matter would reveal themselves when it was convenient. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Carlos at a Home Depot. He was buying supplies for a restaurant renovation project. "Mason, how are you doing, man?" "Better than expected. How's the restaurant business?" "Good. Really good, actually. We're expanding to a second location." He paused. "Hey, I heard about everything that happened. I'm sorry it went down like that, but I'm glad you landed on your feet." "Thanks. It worked out for the best. Your ex-wife came by the hotel a few months ago looking for work. Wanted to know if we had any openings in event management." "Did you hire her?" Carlos shook his head. "Corporate policy. We don't hire former employees who were terminated for policy violations. Plus, word gets around in the hospitality industry. Her reputation, it's complicated now." I nodded. "What about Travis?" "Haven't seen him since the whole thing blew up. Heard he moved to Charlotte. Something about a fresh start and new opportunities." As I drove home that evening, I reflected on the past year. I'd lost a marriage, but I'd gained clarity about who I was and what I was capable of achieving. Hart Climate Solutions was more profitable than ever. My relationship with Tina was stronger than it had been in years, and I'd learned to value the friends who'd stood by me during the worst period of my adult life. Kendra had been right about one thing. I had been coasting, but not in the way she'd meant. I'd been coasting through a marriage that had stopped working years earlier, accepting a dynamic that diminished both of us, and allowing other people to define my worth and my future. The loyalty points system she'd described had been real, but she'd misunderstood who was earning what. Every day I'd stayed in a marriage where intimacy was transactional, respect was conditional, and love was something to be earned rather than shared. I'd been spending points I couldn't afford to lose. Now I was debt-free in every sense that mattered. I pulled into my driveway, the same driveway where I'd learned the truth about my marriage while lying under a broken-down van. The transmission had been fixed months ago, and the van was running better than ever. Some things, it turns out, are worth repairing. Others are better off replaced entirely. I walked into my house, poured myself a bourbon, and started planning my next chapter. It was going to be a good one.